Hi, Esties. Welcome back to another episode of Esthetician Edit. Today we are in Sausalito. I pronounced that correctly, right?
You did.
Okay. We're in Sausalito, California. We are a week away from ICS Long Beach, and we have very exciting news. Botnia is going to be in Long Beach. This is all for the holistic estheticians. I'm a holistic esthetician, and we're all just cheering on for Botnia at the trade shows. So we're going to do an interview with her today, just get to know her, get to know Botnia. Yeah, just more about the brand. So if you don't mind, I want to get to know you more first. I've been saving my questions for you, very interested in getting to know you. But what is like your background? I know you are like into herbalism and also, cosmetic?
Cosmetic chemistry.
Yeah, so if you don't mind just starting there.
Yeah. Well, I have a diverse background, but I am a esthetician first and foremost. But secondly, I am a cosmetic chemist and an herbalist, and so I really have blended everything that I've learned in the 20 plus years of being inside the treatment room with creating a product line. And that's where Botnia really comes from, is from my real life experience inside my treatment room, but also inside my lab and inside this beautiful ecosystem here in the Northern Hemisphere where I have applied Western herbalism to our line.
And was this something that, like, from the very beginning was kind of ingrained in you growing up as a child? Like, I know you have a garden and skincare. So was it something that you kind of knew from the very beginning this is what you're going to do? Or was it something you lost and kind of came back to?
Yeah, thank you. That's such a great question. For me, I grew up in Vermont, which is a place that really values plants and holistic living and, coming from the earth. And my parents were very much, hippies in the 60s, and we always had a garden growing up. But when I went into the field of aesthetics, it was in the second part of my life where I lived in California and I lived in Los Angeles. And, I went into aesthetics working in med spas and working with very traditional skincare. And what I found by working with really harsh chemicals was that I was working against the body. And so there was a point in my career, kind of at the midpoint, where I came back to nature and I came back to what I had valued as a young person, as a child, and brought that back into my practice. And that's really where Botnia was founded.
Okay, so Botnia was built on the idea of treating skin holistically from soil to bottle. How do you define what holistic aesthetics means in practice, and how does that show up differently in your facials compared to a traditional spa?
Oh my gosh, that is such a great question. Thank you for it, because I think there's so many different ways that people describe holistic aesthetics. And for me, its most simple meaning rings true, which is that our body is an ecosystem. And so caring for our bodies means knowing about what's happening inside the body as much as outside the body, and helping to guide our guests into the best outcome for their entire body system. For me with Botnia, one of the things that's really different is that we are treating each individual person specifically instead of generally. And so if somebody comes in, for instance, with an autoimmune disorder, we're going to treat their skin differently than if they came in with acne vulgaris, right? So being able to look at what's physically happening for that guest in the moment and select the ingredient that best matches their body, their constitution, that's how I'm meeting them holistically. That's how we're meeting them specifically. And that's really the difference between Botnia and most other lines out there, is that we work within an apothecary instead of working within a generalized approach for a skin condition.
And what does skin health mean to you?
That is a big question. What does skin health mean to me? My gosh.
Because I feel like just where this question comes from, I feel like we focus a lot on like how our skin looks, and we want clear skin and we want pigmented free skin, but like we don't ever really focus on the health of skin. So I want to talk about that.
So with skin health, the thing that is really vital is that we honor the systems that already exist inside the body, our acid mantle, our biome, and think about them as a perfect system that we can then support as practitioners. And to me, that's what skin health is honoring the body and honoring the systems that already exist, taking them into consideration, not just with our formulas, but also how we meet the skin inside our treatment rooms, and really guide our guests through education on how they meet their skin at home.
Okay, so what role do lifestyle, emotions, and environment play in your philosophy of treating the skin?
They're everything. I feel like you may have guessed that I would say that, but you were right on the money if you did guess that. I think lifestyle is such a huge part of how people's skin is in the world, right? If people are partying and going out all night and, filling their bodies filled with things that their body doesn't thrive from, they're going to see it in their skin. If people are stressed, they're going to see it in their skin. If people have grief, they're going to see it in their skin. And it's because our skin is a reflection of everything that's happening inside our bodies. And there have been studies that have shown how grief ages us, right? And that grief is a thought, it's a feeling in our bodies. It's not even, drinking too much, where you might see, redness and broken capillaries, things like that from that. But with grief, we see it in the body. So, even our thoughts can dictate our skin.
Many brands push strong actives and quick results, while Botnia emphasizes barrier repair and healing. What's your philosophy on incorporating actives like acids, retinol alternatives, or even chemical peels? Do they have a place in your approach? And if so, how?
Oh, yes. They absolutely do. I think what's interesting about holistic aesthetics and natural skincare is that there's this misunderstanding about actives. And I absolutely believe there's a space for actives inside our treatment room, inside our guests' home care. But it's how the active interacts with the body and understanding how many actives people are using. And so with Botnia, I use glycolic and lactic and mandelic acid. I use enzymes. These are all inside my treatment room. They're also inside our retail products. But they're at a low percentage and a really balanced formula so that we're not forcing the skin into submission. With retinol alternatives, I use an incredible retinoid that comes from an algae that attaches to the retinoid receptors in the skin and actually helps your body produce more of its own retinol. And so being able to utilize ingredients that work in synergy with the body's own natural systems is how we get to that active result. And what I find with Botnia, as somebody who's in her 40s, I've been using Botnia since I invented it, I find that, of course, I am aging, right? But I'm also doing it with such grace because I'm supporting my body systems while aging. And I think that, my guests, my clients who I've been seeing for over 20 years, they do use actives, but we're doing it with a nutritional support system that backs up those actives, which actually helps us get to a better, longer lasting result in the end. And I think, working with stronger actives, that should be done inside the treatment room. That should not be done at home. And I think that's where a lot of my deep philosophy comes into play with our back bar and with our retail line. I look at our retail line like a nutritional system, and that's how we get to the result. But the treatment room should be reserved for those deeper services that you're able to really address a very specific need with a tool to get there. And so I don't believe in really strong, medium depth peels, but I do believe in having the tools that we need to accomplish the job of exfoliating the skin or lightening pigmentation at the surface, because it's a vital part of how estheticians function inside their treatment rooms.
I'm a little bit curious as when you are formulating the products, where it begins. So does it begin as in you have a problem and you are looking for a solution to find it, so then you will think about, okay, I know all of these herbs that are going to help with this? Or do you find an herb and then flower and you're like, where can this fit in?
So the skin condition always comes first. And, ultimately I then go and I look at what plants would be most beneficial to help heal that skin condition. And then I bring those plants into the treatment room and I start working with that skin. Sometimes I get it right off the bat and I come up with a formula like our well serum. That serum came together so fast. That's our retinol alternative, excuse me. And sometimes it takes years, like our daily face cream, which was the first product I started with. And it took me, 8 years to perfect that recipe. Mm-hmm. And so it really depends on the product and the guest and their outcome. And that's how I determine whether or not a product goes on our shelves. Does it meet the actual outcome I'm after for the guest skin? And the second thing I'll say is that I always ask myself a very simple question when I'm formulating, which is, but is it healthy for the skin? And I always start there. And I always think about, what are the downsides? What are the outcomes of those ingredients? And how does it affect the body in the long run? And if it's something that's going to be detrimental to the barrier or disrupt the body in any kind of system, I'm less likely to work with it and more likely to keep searching for a better alternative. Mm-hmm.
So we've talked a little bit about what the products do for the skin. I kind of want to talk about what the products do for the esthetician in the treatment room, because your products are unique in that you provide the back bar for estheticians to custom blend for the clients. Yes. So being able to do that, I feel like is so cool, by the way, because there's another level, like there's another layer to being an esthetician. Mm-hmm. Do you mind just kind of explaining why you do that, why that is your approach in the treatment room?
It just makes sense, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that I really felt when I was creating the line and before I created the line was that I would have a guest come in, lay down on my facial table, and I would try to treat their skin, but I didn't have the right tools. Mm-hmm. And most skincare was developed to be very general. It was like my acne mask or my moisture mask or my oily skin mask, whatever I had at my hands, I would blend with the other masks to try to get to an outcome. And I think most estheticians work that way. Mm-hmm. And I had this aha moment of, what if I just understood each individual ingredient? Then I could actually have the outcome I wanted inside my treatment room. And so Botnia is an apothecary approach where I actually teach our partners why each specific ingredient is in the back bar, how to match it to what they're finding inside their treatment rooms, and then custom blend each facial for what is happening for that guest today. Mm-hmm. Not for future issues, not for past concerns, but really getting present with what's happening today with that organ and how can I specifically address it with my back bar.
I think you said it makes sense, but then it wasn't until I heard your philosophy and knew that was even a thing where I was like, oh wow, that it makes sense, but it's not common anymore. Yeah. And I think that as estheticians, a lot of us like to know about ingredients and product knowledge and things like that. But I think it forces us to know even more, and be like the scientists and the investigators, and it keeps us on our toes and it makes things fun. Yes. And so I really like that a lot.
It's so true. And I will say that estheticians, we are smarter than people give us credit for. For sure. And we are paying attention, and we're paying attention to every result we're getting in between each micro step of our treatments. And so what I wanted to create for myself and for my own practice, but also for our partners, was complete control. Mm-hmm. Being able to say, okay, now I'm noticing this, I'm going to address it by pulling in that. And I think before having this kind of control, I always felt like I was just hoping for the best, which always had me feeling slightly like I was at the whim of my product and not necessarily in control of my service. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what makes Botnia really special and different, And it was interesting because I didn't start out to create a product line. It wasn't the dream. The dream was to have a spa. The dream was to give a facial, to give a really good facial. And the product line came because I wanted to give that really good facial, and it unfolded from there. And I think that's really different than a lot of lines that are out there, is that I am still an esthetician. I'm still in the treatment room. I still have a spa. I still think about the same things that I've always thought about. And I'm also creating a product line that is for my peers, is based on all of the things that I think are really common inside our field. And we're really different because we're not, some big funded company. We're grassroots. We've grown, I always joke organically, but we've grown organically because I think we're speaking to a deeper desire inside our fields of, being able to specifically care for our guests and have control.
And I think like holistic aesthetics sometimes is seen more as like a niche.
Yes.
And it also feels sometimes like a lot of holistic estheticians out there, they're great at what they do and it's very inspiring, but not all of them share their wisdom. And it almost feels like, it's ancient wisdom from your grandmother and stuff, but like, how do you get that information? And I feel like it would be so beneficial for so many estheticians. So I think it's beautiful that you are doing this in the treatment room and then giving back to the community. What would you like to see change in the aesthetics industry?
Oh gosh. That's another big question, and I think there's a lot I would like to see change, but most importantly, I think honoring the body and understanding how to work with the reality of the organ itself. And I would love to see estheticians understand more about what they're putting on the skin and why they're putting it on the skin and how to work with their guest skin to come to a really beautiful result for them that's in alignment with their guest's body. And I may sound a little bit like a broken record there, but I do think that we're sometimes not asking the most important question, which again is, but is it healthy for the skin? And I think when we can ask that question and really feel like we're standing in that space, we're going to be offering people something that will set them up for success. And we won't have to have all of these side effects like hyperpigmentation, post-inflammatory conditions, breakouts, things that happen from conventional skincare that is approaching the skin from a marketing lens instead of approaching the skin from but is it healthy and how can I support the longevity of your organ? How can I build up the barrier strength? How can I, holistically think about the eczema that your skin is expressing and help guide you into a state of calm and healing? And I think speaking to holistic aesthetics being something that feels like it's being gate-kept, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of holistic estheticians out there that kind of hold tight to their chest their knowledge. And one of my goals here is not to be the cool girl in the room. I don't care about being the cool girl. What I care about is helping people access tools that are going to help heal more humans. And so, we offer an Intro to Holistic Aesthetics course at Botnia that any esthetician can take, and we will teach you about, herbalism and skin physiology and how our body systems are connected, because I think it's important information that you don't get in school, but is so vital to how you meet your guests' needs at the time of service.
Yeah. If you could shift one belief that clients or estheticians have about skin, what would it be?
Oh, anti-aging. I think it's the most ridiculous sentence or word, anti-aging. I like to call it wise skin when I'm referring to my pro-aging beliefs, but I think the idea that we can anti-age is such an outdated concept, and it's going against this thing that's really beautiful, which is that as we age, we gain wisdom. And so why not celebrate this thing that gets to happen to us as we become wiser and older and more experienced. And gosh, if we trained our little girls to look at their mothers and their grandmothers and think, wow, I want to be them one day. And I think a lot of children do think that thought, and we lose it as young adults. And as we age, we fear this thing that's happening to our bodies, instead of going, of course I have fine lines because I've smiled a lot. And of course I have, pigmentation from laying on that beautiful beach. But I also get to celebrate that my skin has held me through all of it. And so it's a lofty goal. It's one that I don't think will probably come to fruition in my lifetime, but it's one that I set because it's one I want to hold for myself and for my daughter and for all of the people in our industry, is to be pro-aging, to celebrate women and men as we age through time.
Yeah, okay, so I have also opinions on this as well, but I feel like it's always the intention behind something. So like, for example, with skincare, I think the intention for a lot of people is like, getting really clear, perfect skin, glass skin, but the intention isn't to have healthy skin, right? Or even like with food, it's like, sometimes we go on diets and we want to like lose weight, but it's all for like vanity purposes instead of just being healthy and being at, your most vital. And so I think that when we approach things from like with a healthy intention, then that's where we produce beautiful results because we build like a relationship, like there's like a connection. Because I would say, like, my beauty routine has healed me because I do it more so to calm myself because it makes me feel good about myself. But once I shifted that from I'm doing this because I want perfect skin to I'm doing this to feel good, that's when things shifted for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's always.
I don't know if that makes sense.
It absolutely makes sense. It's always a relationship with self, right?
Yeah.
And it starts there. And going back to what we were talking about, the thoughts that we have really do dictate the outcomes of our skin. And so if you're thinking thoughts about your body and your skin, and I've had guests come and lay down on my table at 21 years old and say, I want to anti-age my skin. Like they come in and they're like, I'm worried about my wrinkles at 21. And, they have so much collagen and their skin looks beautiful. And so what my goal is with them is to work on how they feel about themselves, right? And beauty standards. And I think what you're speaking to is that much deeper relationship that we have to our own bodies while we meet the beauty standards of the times that we live in.
Yeah.
Right? And to your point, glass skin, donut face, whatever we want to call it, it isn't natural for a lot of different skin types. And so if we force our skin into donut face or whatever, glazed donut face, we're going to end up harming our barrier.
Yeah.
And so how are we meeting our skin? And I love what you said about the body because it's true. We can't healthfully lose 10 pounds in a week. It's not good for our bodies to do that. And so, we need to work with our bodies over time to come to a result. And we may never have, glass skin or whatever, but we might also have healthy, vibrant, strong barrier function skin that protects us and in the long run ends up being healthier and having less damage.
Yeah, I agree. And I think some people who are also against beauty routines and skincare routines, because you do have the like people who secretly are like, I will never do that, like rebellious against that. I actually feel like I always see my beauty routine as something that's so healing and it promotes self-love and just making yourself feel the feeling of being pampered. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish they could experience that because it's not all vanity. At least not for me. I don't think it is for a lot of estheticians.
No, oh my gosh. I will say that you are so right on about this. For almost all people, your skincare routine is the only time of day that you touch your body with self-love. Where you touch your own body and go, I'm caring for you. And if you slow down and you really think about that, being an esthetician is the coolest job in the whole world because we get to promote that.
Yeah.
We get to promote self-love. And if there's one thing that this world needs more of, it's that, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And I think it's something that I promote inside my treatment room. Spend an extra 30 seconds massaging your face cream in. And when you're doing it, look at yourself in the mirror and notice yourself. And that in itself is self-love. You're caring for your organ, you're caring for your body. Touch yourself with self-love. It's a beautiful thing.
It's like we're like, this is honestly a topic that I've always wanted to talk about, and I feel like you're the perfect person to talk about it. So thank you. Because it's honestly why I became an esthetician, and I feel like some people can look at me and be like, oh, what you do is just for vanity, but it's not. I actually, when I first started, I was getting facials and going to spas all the time, and it was during a really difficult time in my life where I struggled with self-love, and that was the moment for me where I was like, oh wow, like this is what it feels like to, you know, receive love and to receive that pampering.
That's right.
And I think that's the feeling I want my clients to feel.
Yeah, I think it's so true. I mean, one of the most powerful exercises that I'll do with my guests who are struggling with self-love is to hand them a mirror and have them look at their own faces in the mirror and then imagine their grandmother's face or an ancestor like a aunt or somebody that they really love. And imagine their ancestor while they're looking at their own face and imagine the love that they have for their grandmother or their mother or their aunt or even their best friend while they're looking at their own face so that they can remember how to love themselves.
Yeah.
Because we lose that ability. When we're looking in the mirror, we see our flaws, we see our faults, and we don't spend enough time seeing the resilient, beautiful skin, the resilient, beautiful, you know, way that we've met the world, you know, and I think it's worth helping guide our guests there.
That's the best advice ever. I even like with my friends when it comes to relationships, I'm like, what would you say to your best friend, your mother, like if she was with this guy? Just kidding.
Exactly.
It's true though. That's the best way to see it. What legacy do you hope that Botnia leaves behind in the aesthetics industry?
Oh, well, I hope that Botnia changes the entire industry. That has always been the driving force behind what I'm doing. And not from the perspective of like, I hope that, you know, we become like wildly rich and famous, but from the perspective of our philosophy, which is to treat every single guest's skin specifically, and that estheticians, they regain the tools to do so and get to have the same experience that I've had of truly healing people's skin and doing it in alignment with nature and the body. And it's just such an exciting feeling when you can come to an outcome with somebody and heal their acne or help soften a fine line or wrinkle and do it with something that you know everything about. And, you know, my biggest hope is that we get to create super nerds, estheticians that feel empowered, and that they get to stand in their own integrity, knowing that the quality of the ingredient they're placing not only on their guest skin, but on their bodies is whole and healthy and supports the ecosystem that we all exist inside. Something that is really important to me as a brand is not that we create just products that are good, it's that we create packaging systems that are good, it's that we create education that is founded in science and truth. And so, you know, really thinking about the mark that we're leaving on the industry involves us thinking about our farm partnerships, our packaging systems, ways that people also are interacting with us as a company as we grow and scale. And so my biggest hope is that we'll be able to meet that demand and create the solution that I always wish existed.
I believe in Botnia. I believe in your mission. Well, thank you so much. We're actually going to go visit the micro farm where Justine is going to show us like all of the plants and herbs and what they actually do for the skin. So stay tuned. Hi, Esty. So we are here with Justine from Botnia, and we are here at your micro farm, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you mind telling us a little bit about what this even is?
Oh
And
my
this is in
gosh.
her home, by the way.
Yeah. So welcome to my home, everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
You know, this space was really created because I just wanted to make quality skincare. And to make quality skincare, I found that being connected to the ingredient itself was really vital. And so I started by growing in my own garden, which is available to most people who have the space to grow, if they're lucky enough to have the space to grow. And what I found by making our skincare with these plants is that I was getting to richer, stronger, more potent plant constituents that were really healing and creating the skincare that I wanted to stand behind. And so I look at this garden like a test kitchen or a micro farm where I get to really experience the plants, understand them fully, and then work with other farms to replicate what we have here.
I love that. I feel like specifically, like even with food, I feel like when you start to get to know the food that you're eating and you understand the benefits, then you have like a deeper relationship with it, and you're more focused too on the positive and the nutrients that it can provide for you. I don't think we do that enough with skincare, so I'm super excited to hear about like each of the plants and what they do for our skin.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to share. And what I will say is you're totally right, Sam. The thing that I think people really lose track of is that our skin is our body, and what feeds our inside body also feeds our outside body, because our body is a system and these plants are incredibly beneficial. We've known that since the beginning of time, and we're just now coming back to that. And so I can't wait to give you a tour.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Come on over. Okay, well, welcome to our greenhouse. This is a space where we take our plants after they've lived their life cycle and they're ready for harvest. And in here we have so many incredible medicinal plants. Come on in, I just want to show you a few. So in here we have everything from borage here, which is an incredible anti-inflammatory. We have comfrey, also a tissue healer, an anti-inflammatory botanical. We have Sweet Annie behind you right there. She's antifungal. And then more borage back here. We have yarrow over here. And then in here we have a lot of our more delicate flowers, everything from rose geranium flowers to calendula flowers. These mainly are anti-inflammatories as well, but have specific use cases. Calendula is really good for lymphatic flow. Rose geranium is known as a hormone balancing plant. We have rose here, rose petals. Rose is really great for dry skin, wise skin types. People that are aging really do well with rose, and so we have a lot of rose in here as well. But this space in the summertime, we use it for drying because it's nice and warm. But in the wintertime, we use this space for our starts. And so this entire space gets cleared out, and this is where we start all of our plants before they make their way onto the micro farm. Have our roses. And if you want to go ahead and smell one of our roses, it's kind of the end of the season, but each one of our roses was specifically picked for its medicinal value. And so these are all really medicinally rich roses in this part of our garden. Back here, we have our second beehive. Along with our flower beds, we have some comfrey growing in here right now. Comfrey is a tissue healer. We love it for post-acne. We love it for healing scarring. It's an incredible ally in several Botnia products. And over here, we actually have a really cool plant. Plant is the same plant you saw in there. This is calendula. And calendula is that lymphatic supporter. But I find that it's really brightening. It's in the Asteraceae family, and I love it for brightening hyperpigmentation, post-sun care. I love it for healing acne scars, any kind of stagnant skin I will use calendula on. And it is just the happiest, sunniest dang flower you ever saw.
And what specific products do you have that have this one in it?
So all of our oil blends have calendula in them, and then we also have it in a back bar only product that is called our calendula mask, and it has calendula hydrosol, calendula extract in it, and then in our new fade serum, there's calendula hydrosol. Here's more calendula, and we also have some chamomile in here. It's just such a beautiful flower.
So you said that this helps specifically with lymphatic support. Can you tell us a little bit about how lymphatic support helps the skin?
Yeah, so stagnation in the lymphatic system can contribute to inflammatory conditions of the skin. Stagnation of lymphatic fluids is essentially like blood waste, right? And so anytime we have any kind of backup of our waste system, we can have inflammation, we can have skin that looks lackluster. And so that's why lymphatic drainage is so popular right now in the skincare space. And lymphatic system is specifically helped by stimulating asters like calendula, whereas the vascular system is specifically indicated for stimulating asters like arnica. And so if you had a bruise, you would want to use arnica. If you had stagnant lymph, you would want to use calendula.
Because you always hear about the benefits of all of these herbs and stuff, but sometimes I'm like, I don't understand. Like, tell me more.
Yeah, how does it work with the skin?
How does it actually work? Yeah.
And so with any kind of lymphatic stimulating plant, you're going to see some blood flow, some redness in the skin. That's actually a part of how we're moving stagnation, but it's best paired with lymphatic massage. Yeah. So this plant here is really interesting. This is a palligronium, which is a scented geranium. And the coolest thing about the scented geraniums is that they secrete their oils through little vellus hairs on their leaves. And these oils are incredibly antibacterial, antifungal. And in herbalism, they use it for hormone balancing. I use it as a part of our preserving system because geraniums have a really robust immune system and they ward off natural disease. And so we actually use that same concept inside our products as a biome, and it's also protective for the skin. I love rose geranium for almost all skin types because it is so balancing, but it's also so gentle. Yeah.
I know you have a holistic esthetician course.
Yes.
So obviously I'm sure you talk about the herbs.
Oh yeah.
Do you give the estheticians the knowledge so they can tell their clients like, okay, if you are struggling with, for example, PCOS, maybe these are the herbs that you should take internally as well as externally?
So we don't focus on internals, although all of the internals that exist inside our line, we try to point out to our partners because there's so many different systems that work together inside the body, and the skin ultimately is a detox organ. So anytime we're seeing something in the skin, there's a pretty good chance that something inside the body could also benefit from the plant that matches what we're trying to approach in the surface of the skin.
Because I feel like as you are teaching me about the plants, I'm kind of like, there's alarms going off in my head, like, oh, this could be useful for what I'm going through hormonally.
Yes.
Like, I never knew about this herb ever.
Yeah, and you can drink rose geranium tea. You can also use the essential oil, and it's a powerful ally for the skin topically for hormone balancing. And it's very gentle, which I find people that have PCOS, people that struggle with inflammatory conditions, treating the skin more gently actually allows the body to find balance quicker with more longevity. And so I love utilizing very gentle plants. These plants came from Africa. And they love heat and they're incredibly disease resistant. And so again, looking to nature and thinking about like, wow, this plant has survived the African environment, you know, what must its immune system be like? And that's why many of these plants, they're from really stressful environments. They grow really heartily here in California, but you know, they have robust immune systems, and we're adding that immune system to your skin's immune system. And so that's what's exciting about this plant.
Okay, Justine. Well, thank you so much for today, for the podcast, for this wonderful tour. Where can our listeners find you?
First of all, thank you so much. It's been such a joy to share Botnia with you all, and everybody can find Botnia at botniaskincare.com. And if you're interested in a wholesale account, just click on the wholesale link at the top of the page and you can fill out our application and we'll get back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.